Okay, he goes, this man, he's a heavily requested guest, this man.
Yeah.
We finally got him. He's a proud owner of Australian Test cap number 404. Famously took 12 wickets on debut in India, knocking over Sehwag, Dravid, Laxman, Dada, Dhoni and everyone else before they cycled through him like they did 54 other blokes with only one test who bowled spin. There were also 8 ODIs. There was 114 first-class wickets by the end of his career, bowling the best-looking spin we've seen this side of Shane Warne. He also wore the nickname Subway on his back while playing for Australia in 2007. We'll talk about that. It's our friend, your friend, Jason Krejza. Jason, welcome to The Grade Cricketer.
Thank you, guys. Absolute honour to be on this show. This is incredible.
That sounded sincere enough.
Incredible.
Jason, let's start pre-grade cricket. Okay, before you played cricket, football or soccer was your game, according to all the articles here, and you used to kick around with Mark Bosnich at Amalfi Park in southwest Sydney. Is that correct, or was that just sort of dialed up a little bit as you got into the side?
No, mate, that's 100% genuine. My dad was a professional soccer player, so growing up, soccer was one of the main sports that was in the household all the time. We were from a European background, and him being soccer was just a natural thing. And he coached. He knew his dad very closely. They played soccer together, and then my dad coached Mark when he was a kid. So then one day, when every Sunday morning, there was a bunch of European guys, basically Yugoslav, Serbians, all mixed together, playing Sunday soccer in the Amalfi Park directly behind our house. And one day, Dad told me that Mark Bosnich was coming, and he was playing for Aston Villa at the time, and he rocked up, and then we basically knew each other since then. And I've seen him a few times since, and he does remember me. So I always thought maybe he didn't, but then he saw me and said my name. So I guess it got validated for me that he did know me, because I didn't think he did, but he remembers.
Boswell was a king as a kid. Into grade cricket, Jason, you played at Fairfield, Liverpool and Sydney, and then Balmain before going over to Tassie. Just tell us, what sort of grounding does grade cricket give an international aspirant, both on the field and off, if any? Just what sort of grounding does it give you?
Sort of grounding? It's a good question. I don't know. I guess far out. Grade cricket is a tough competition. There's a lot of teams. There's a lot of talent out there. And as a young guy, for me, coming out of sort of that Green Shield, Green Shield ages, the under 16s and all that junior stuff, you start playing against men, and you start understanding the big steps that you need to take to go from one level to the other. It's a progression, and you get better and better and better. But then every single step, it gets bigger. And you have to keep up with that. And that's something that, for me, as a young guy, I was talented, and I sort of relied on that as a kid. But then the further up the ranks you get, the harder you have to train and the more discipline you have to do. You have to be with your own training by yourself outside of, the regular, organised sessions. So it sort of became apparent of the amount of work I had to do. That was probably the biggest thing that opened my eyes. You know that there is hard work, and you assume it's just like what everyone says, but it's way harder than you actually think. And that's, for me, grade cricket was a competition that with 20 teams, you've got so much talent, and you're then trying to get into the New South Wales team, and then again into a smaller pool to get to Australia, which was always my goal. It just sort of showed me the amount of work that I had to do to be better than every single other person that I was playing against. Just hard work, but it's a great reward when you get to the top.
Obviously, the pinnacle of any cricketer's life, including internationals, is playing first grade, though.
Cool. In Sydney.
Sydney Test cricket, of course.
At what age? Carry on like a pork chop at training.
There we go.
Yeah. Now, last week we spoke to Ashton Agar, who had to wait to the ripe age of 15 before he got his chance in first grade. I imagine you were similar lines, like definitely teenager playing first grade, first cap.
Yeah. I think it was 16 or 17. It was just after Greenies, I'm pretty sure. 17 or 18.
Must have had a good season in Green Shield.
Unbelievable. Caned them. 220 runs at 30 or something.
Now, or something. Yeah. Now, are you one of these guys who, because you're obviously quite a good stick as well, but were you one of those guys who started bowling a bit of seam and then turned to spin, bat as well, or were you always ripping in with the offies?
Mate, I was a quick. I remember my first game, and my brother recalls this story, and when he tells me, I remember it. First game was at Shell Park at Woodlands, I think it was, against Woodlands in Sydney. First game, my brother told me to bowl spin because that was the time, I think, when Tim May was a spinner. And he was like, mate, bowl off his. And apparently I just turned around and said, mate, pace gets wickets. So I was a pace bowler all the way up until I was, I think, sort of on the under-13 state stuff, sort of the Metro. I think it was Metro Cup then. And I was the opening bowler and I was quick. I was one of the quickest guys in it. I was hitting guys in the head every week for fun, which was enjoyable. And then stress fracture comes in when 13, which was really young at that stage.
God, yeah.
That wasn't really. Not a lot of kids got stress fractures at that stage that everyone had heard of, and that's what changed bowling loads in the junior levels. I can only bowl 6 overs. I was sort of the start of that. Because the physio Pat Farhart was with the Australian team. He was disgusted. Took me into this big convention with physiotherapists everywhere at King's School. I remember it, and I was standing on stage. He was showing everyone my scans, and he's the one that said we need to bring in bowling loads because I bowled 10 overs straight in the morning for juniors, then play seniors in the afternoon and bowl 20 straight. So I was just bowling so much and obviously stuffed my back.
So is this to say, Jason, that you are responsible for the inception of bowling loads and all the controversy that's come with that?
Well, I'll say at the junior level, I wouldn't say at the top level in terms of resting blokes and all that sort of stuff, but at the junior level, yeah, that's what Pat Farhart, that's what he told me. He wasn't very happy seeing young fellas getting stressy, so fortunately, sorry guys, it's me.
Every time sort of, an old quick comes out and goes, when we were younger, we bowled 35 overs in the nets, etc. They just need to bowl, It's really just because Krejza did his back.
Got stressy.
Just bigger than me.
Go on, Jace.
No, I was just going to say that's where I started bowling spin from that point. And that was at 14, so I was a little bit older than I guess most spinners have been bowling since a kid, but I changed at 14 because Mark Waugh was my hero and he went from his little dinky old Meds to spin, so I thought I'd do the same thing because he was my hero.
Yeah. You just start buying some offies and play Test cricket.
Exactly. That's how it works.
Easy.
It's a funny game.
Just speaking of your ascension to the national side, the official version of you getting picked for Australia, you're on an A tour in India, you leapfrog a few people. The romantic version is that Ponting's just watching you bowl in the nets and just says, this bloke's got to play. But then I learned that you didn't even know in the warm-ups of that day that you were going to play. Cameron White just walks past and says, congrats, mate, you're in. And it just sort of says a bit about Australia, doesn't it? This is a wonderful moment for you. He's like, oh, you're going to play, am I?
Yeah.
Righto.
Yeah, well, mate, I was expecting to play from at least the second game when because they kept saying, mate, if the wickets look like it's going to rag, you're going to play. And I think the second one was in Delhi, and Delhi was just red, just pure red wicket. And I was like, this is it, but didn't get a crack there. And that's exactly right. I was so high, I couldn't remember that punter gave me the cap.
Yeah, nice.
That's how much of a shock in that time it was. I was just warming up. I think this is the last game of the year, going home in about 7 days, and then Whitey tells me congrats. And I had no idea what for, whether that was just because I warmed up really well or something. But that was it.
Congrats
that was me. I was in the game.
Really good warm-up.
Man. Good stretching. So that was it. And then I was in. So it was... and there was a frantic because we couldn't have our phones in the change rooms anymore because of the betting, match fixing side. So I had to go scrambling around trying to get clearance to get my phone to at least text people at home to watch me. I'm on. Watch me on telly.
Mummy.
Record. Record on my bowling.
Record. Press record.
Everyone says, Jace, that Ponting is just like an amazing captain, especially for young guys coming to the team, their debuts and stuff. I mean, everyone says that. So all I want to know is, not the good stuff. What are his secrets? There's something going on with Ponting. There's got to be some sort of dirt
Skeletons.
there. Skeletons, yeah. What are his skeletons? Can you reveal those?
Just publicly.
Man, if I had some dirt, I'd give it to you.
No one's got it. Yeah.
I don't have it. I don't have any dirt. It was it changed my life. It genuinely changed my life and approach on how to handle myself as a cricketer. When he came from the Australian team and come playing for Tassie, he was just like one of the boys, and he gave equal amount of time to the hierarchy of the team versus the rookie had played first game. It was so good, and he would give he gave all his time to everyone. He would throw you balls for hours. And then you look at all the prima donna guys that were part of that, and they wouldn't. They would ask for throwdowns and walk away and go and sit down and look after themselves. But he was so good at giving his time away to everyone and gave off all his knowledge, and that was so good. And that's sort of what brought me into the path of being a coach after cricket, because I just felt like I wanted to sort of do that myself. I haven't got the knowledge that he does. He's a different level, but whatever knowledge I've gained over the years, then I just want to give that back to kids.
Well, let's just stay with that for a second, because we all talk about the ball to Laxman and 12 wickets and stuff. We've got to do that. But, it's interesting you note that while Ponting was doing that, there's still some prima donnas around who wouldn't give the throwdowns and stuff like that. Was that your experience of your time in the national side as well, that you still just have those people who are like, I'll look after myself here? And do you think that's kind of still the case in the Australian cricket, or do you think it's getting a bit better?
And what's Michael Clark like as a bloke?
I think maybe I found that more at the state level. At the top level, there was a lot of help around, so you sort of had that ability to do that and focus on yourself. But at state cricket, there's an element of helping each other out, and there was definitely a handful of people that are quite selfish. But that selfishness is what, in a way, they needed to do that to be as good as they are. It was like their zone. They would get into the zone and they wouldn't even think about giving someone else a throwdowns. But you've always got the time, and I just, I changed the way that I do that. But at the Australian level, I think it may be changing a little bit, but they're the best. So they've got egos for a reason, because that's what makes them tick. As long as they can control them, I guess.
If we can move on to, obviously, the great debut. Where was that? Where was that?
It was
Nagpur.
Nagpur. Thank you. Okay, so I want to know how you reflect on your debut. I mean, the first time you ever have a go at bowling Test cricket, you take 8 wickets in an innings, 8 for 215, 12 in the match. You get Sehwag out, Dravid, Laxman twice, Ganguly twice, Dhoni twice. But so many people, how fucked is cricket basically, where you get 8 for 215, and kind of like some people would be like, went for a few, but
at 25.
Yeah.
You're going to debut. You're going to take 8 for at 25 apiece in your first, and then in Australia people are like, I went for a couple. That's always in the comments that everyone says, you got 8 for, but geez, you're expensive. And then I'm like, I was, but I got 8 for.
I'll take that. Yeah, take the ball.
Yeah,
but it was. What's it like, man? If I could describe the feeling of debuting for your country when you actually didn't know a month ago that you were going to be even play for Australia, it's ridiculous. I went from, as you guys mentioned, I was playing for Australia A, that I'd played probably 10 times prior already. That was sort of the thing that, I was always sort of close, but never got the opportunity. And then that comes around, and then you're standing at the other end of Sehwag, and that's, knowing how he treats spinners and how all of them treat spinners, and how I got treated in the trial game. That's disrespect, but they were always going to do that, just to put some pressure on me. But it was an incredible feeling, for me to be standing there with, Ponting in mid-wicket and Hayden. And, it was just, mind-blowing to me. Even turning up at Dubai Airport, because we took the dumbest flight in the world to get there. We'd go over India for 5 hours and then come back. Getting to Dubai Airport and seeing everyone there with their suits on was just like, I'm part of it. Like, man, it just felt like, I'm in. But it was just a little bit hard for me to get the feel of I was actually in. And I know a couple other players have said the same thing. There was quite a big, strong hierarchy of players there that knew each other. And then I'm the new young bloke coming in. So, I thank that Binger was on the tour, because he was a mate already. So he sort of really took me under his wing and made me feel like part of the team. But, man, playing that first test, that's ridiculous. And I remember sitting in the sheds at the end of taking 8 for and just sort of slumping into the chairs. And Michael Hussey come back and just said, do you understand what you've just done? And just, whacked me on the back. And I then just gave myself that moment of going, Jesus, I just took 8 wickets, like, far out. I was buggered, a lot of overs. But, man, that was an incredible feeling.
Oh, it's fucking awesome, man. Like, did you have, going into that game, did you have a wicket that you really wanted? Like, you basically got all of them out at one point, except, I guess, Tendulkar. But did you have one that you really wanted before? Or were you just happy to take one?
No, I was happy to take one, of course, man.
Ishant Sharma.
10 I got him too.
Yeah, got it.
Tendulkar was obviously one, and I had him dropped in the first inning, being a drop tip, so I could have had 9, which would have been.
I bet you've never brought that up.
Love it.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's never come up.
Nah. So, yeah, mate, it was just trying to, at the beginning, it was trying to get Saywag for me because he was tearing me apart. And I was like, I really need to get him, and I'm not going to just bowl darts. It's not me. I'm just going to keep throwing him in there, and if he shanks one, he shanks one. If he keeps bombing him, he's going to keep bombing him. So I just keep throwing him up there, and he just unfortunately tried to cut my big spinning bouncing off him, sliced it on.
So you take 12 for the match, Jason. You're man of the match, ball of the year to Laxman in the first innings. You get one more game for Australia, one more test at the Wacker that summer in Australia. It doesn't go well for anyone really in the side. Then you're gone, And I know you're very grateful for the opportunity to play for Australia, but can you describe what it was like trying to make it as a spinner in the post-Warne era?
What was it like? It felt like you had to be consistent and play a big role in every game. That's what it felt like. In Perth, it felt like I needed probably to take wickets and win the game on fourth innings, which on that wicket was going to be difficult. But that's what it felt like. It felt like you had to do everything right. If you didn't get everything right in the first couple of games, they were going to try someone else. That second game for me was probably one of the hardest conditions I've bowled in. I think I've maybe only played in Perth once prior to that, and the Fremantle doctor that comes windy, across, it's blustery as well. So it'll be howling as you're coming into bowl, and then as you bowl and you're trying to adjust for it to drift away, it stops. And so then you start the ball a bit too straight because you're expecting it to drift, and then one would drift wide because as you're bowling, the wind would pick up. So it was very difficult to bowl. And my ankle from the last game when I twisted my ankle in Adelaide wasn't 100%, but everyone was saying, mate, you need to play. Like Bingo was saying it for sure. He's like, mate, you need to play. If you don't play and Horry bowls well again, you never know. So it was like, you need to play this game. So I had a massive brace on my ankle. It wasn't 100%, We can give all excuses under the sun. I should have bowled better. But I wasn't expecting to not go to Melbourne the next game. And I got the call about 3 hours after the game before we even got on the plane at the airport, which was quite quick. And I remember saying it to Binger, saying, mate, I just got dropped. And he's like, and they're not going to do it now. He's like, no, don't bullshit. You're not going to get dropped now. They won't do it now. And I said, mate, I literally just got the call from Hilditch straight after the game. So it was almost like they had the selection ready to go based on my performance. So that got changed very, very quickly. And from there, it was I just didn't feel like I had a look in at all. It was like they changed and they wanted to get a different type of spinner. They needed someone with 3 or 4 attacking quicks. They needed someone to hold up an end. So that wasn't me.
That's actually what I was going to say, because after you, they seemed to change the philosophy entirely. Where they got Nathan Lyons obviously had a hugely successful career, but initially, or for a good few years, maybe even now to this day, his role in the team has sort of been to tie down an end and lock him in, and then let the three quicks rotate from the other end. I mean, it's quite a change in philosophy. I mean, is that why you always felt, because you developed like a deucer as well? You were always trying to get wickets, always trying to be attacking, always buying wider outside the off stump to spin it a bit more. I mean, is that why you think that you weren't given another chance? Because I mean, you took 12 wickets on debut, not bad. But it was as much a change of philosophy more than anything else, you reckon?
Yeah, and while I was playing, the role was never. My role was never, you need to bowl dots, you need to be tight. It was always get into the rough and spin it, and when we set fields accordingly. So it was never, hey, Jace, have a crack at, maybe you need to tie down an end here and let the quicks rotate from the other end. It was always get into the rough and spin it. That was my strength. And I remember Steve Vixen saying it to me during a pre-season tour once just after I'd been dropped with Tasman. He said, mate, I feel sorry for you because you got dropped for the exact thing that you've been told to do your whole life. I was always told to come on and take a wicket, right, we need to get a wicket, give it to Jace, need to get a wicket, attack, throw it up, slow it up, bowl slower. Whereas I had to go the opposite during that time, but I was never told to do that. So, sort of when you put it like that, it sort of made sense. I'd never actually been taught and never played, never used as someone to tie up an end. It was always to attack. So that's all I knew. So probably if they needed someone in that role, then it was the right decision.
What do you think is the status of decision makers in Australia and their understanding of spin bowling? It's been 12 years since that time. Do you think it's improved post-Warne, or do you still think the same kind of confusion that you're talking about there reigns? We always want the next Warne or someone to kind of take the wickets in the fourth innings, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of understanding about some of the nuances there. There's talk about wickets in Sheffield Shield being tough to bowl on, when to use your spinner. A lot of middle grade cricket rewards the 31-year-old medium pacer with a ring field. Can go to
rightfully so.
Rightfully so. You win flags that way. But what do you think about it?
I think Nathan Lyon's a perfect mix of what Australia needed. He can attack, he spins the ball. We just needed someone that actually spun the ball. That was probably important. But I think it's got better. But it's just trying to coach spinners to be able to understand their role and being able to be flexible in a way. So they should be able to do both. And the game has changed. The wickets in Shield cricket definitely towards in my career were so flat, like I couldn't spin them. So I didn't feel like I could be part of it. I didn't feel like I could be part of the game. And if you were playing a role, particularly say for me, if I was just going for dots and I wasn't taking wickets, people would tell me that I wasn't doing the job because I should be taking wickets. But then when I took wickets and went for runs, it was like the KPI just kept moving, the goalpost kept moving. So I think that definitely the wickets have changed and the role of the spinner has changed to a degree. They definitely have to bowl quicker. Batsmen play spin a lot different. They've got more shots and then way more. They back their skills a lot more. So spinners just have to be a lot more versatile in what they do. Trying to find the next one is going to be bloody hard. But Nathan Lyon is a perfect mix of the two. I truly believe he's done such an incredible job at that level.
Yeah, you're just saying what you need to do is take a lot of wickets and attack when needed, but also not go for many runs, also when it's needed, and just to decide when to do that.
Yeah, which is so difficult.
Of course.
Quicks don't have to do that. They just bowl the areas and sort of set fields according to how it's going. So I know that definitely captains, at grade level of that, they're not patient enough with spinners, which they tried changing that, I think, in a second 11, didn't they? They actually spinners had to bowl a certain quota of numbers through the games. It shouldn't happen. Shouldn't happen.
Yeah, it shouldn't have to happen.
Wild.
Just no.
We've got two more questions here, Jason. One of them is kind of like the question from, when people are watching Don McLean and want to hear him sing American Pie and they just sit through the other songs until there's a question. But it's just a story I have to get some confirmation.
It's a fact-finding.
Yeah, it's fact-finding. I don't know if it's you or whatever, but... as you know, grade cricket's full of lots of folklore. We don't know who this is about, but we know you're sort of in the orbit of this tale.
Yeah.
You're in the orbit. And it's not really about the person; it's more about Steve Waugh, as always. So here it goes. So I don't know what you said there, but as far as we understand, it's just a rumour. But Fairfield, Liverpool are playing Bankstown. Steve Waugh's back, and he's batting. And there's a young guy at Gully. And he basically just drops his pants and says, Tugger, what do you think? Steve Waugh turns out the side of his mouth and says, not bad.
Not bad.
Now, you played for Fairfield around that time. I guess I'm wondering, are we on the money with that rumour, to your knowledge?
I'm sitting outside in front of Bankstown Oval talking to you guys right now, so the memory's fresh. Very fresh.
Can you any more light?
Subway fresh.
So you've got some memory. Yeah.
I do. Next question.
Yeah, all right. Next question.
There was oh man, trying to promote my business here as well, aren't I?
We'll do that. We're coming up next. Yeah.
Yeah. There was this things that happens in the shed. Usually stay within the walls of the shed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so we violated that code.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. But hey, it was funny. Let's just say it was pretty funny.
It was funny.
True.
Yeah.
You obviously, and here's the thing, Jason, like we talk about that sort of level of grade cricket and it's a kind of economy within an economy, but you're obviously not so jaded about cricket that like you haven't stopped your involvement. I mean, you run elite cricket now. You're literally involved in the game, helping kids achieve their dreams, learn more about cricket, enjoy the game, according to the philosophy that you were just speaking about as well, being someone who gives more throwdowns, who helps people out. Elite cricket's really well known across Sydney. Now, you've had great success with it. It actually plays into one of TGC's core themes. I mean, I don't want to sit here and just talk about how big elite cricket is and how much bigger it's getting around Sydney and beyond. I want to give the TGC spin on it. In 2020, like what's the percentage of parents who presume little Timmy or Tara will indeed go on to represent their country? How many involve themselves just a little too much, especially the dads?
Yeah, lots. I think there's definitely a lot. There is a large amount, and sometimes it's, they think they're doing their kids a service, but they really aren't, particularly when they're, if they don't get selected and then 100 emails get sent afterwards asking why. I think you know why. Everyone's got an opinion, and if your son didn't get picked, they didn't get picked. But there's a lot of involvement. I think sometimes they just need to step back, try and find a mentor. Either it's a private coaching business like myself or the others, but they just need to get a mentor in their lives that's outside of the family. I think because there's obviously a lot of bias going on. But mate, for me, coaching became a natural progression. I actually didn't think I was going to do it. I started doing a nursing degree when I finished right at the end of my career because I'd had 20 surgeries on my hips and my knees. I started really enjoying what theatre was like. I enjoyed the atmosphere and I wanted to be in there and help, kids not be scared, help people in that environment. I was sort of like that medical field. So as soon as I come to Sydney, I just started doing more of the coaching that I was doing in Tassie and started going, hey, I'm really good at this. What am I doing something that isn't natural to me? And I just understood that I was good at it, and I started understanding how good I was with kids, and it just became a natural thing for me to do. And since then, I absolutely loved it. Coaching young Green Shield teams. I'm coaching the North Sydney Green Shield team at the moment. That's where I'm now doing one of the games that they're doing through the holidays. And I absolutely love it. And it's been such a good challenge for me after cricket, without a business degree or anything, just to literally go straight head on, grab a business off someone and try and continue that going. And, I've loved it. I've grown it. I'm looking to do more. Trying to figure out more opportunities that I can do within cricket. I've started developing a cricket coaching aid, which has not really gone anywhere in the last couple of years because I've never done something like that before, but it's something that I really want to get out there to help kids. And mate, I've loved it. It's been such a great... I've enjoyed it more than playing cricket. Playing cricket, there's a lot of stress, particularly when you're doing it for a living. I struggled with it towards the end of my career, and here I can, throw a ball to a kid or an adult and show them how the cover drive works, and they do it, they figure it out, and the feeling that I get from doing that for someone else is better than doing something for myself. So absolutely love it, mate. Absolutely love it.
Because you played cricket at such a young age, like a high level, like first grade at 16, 17, whatever it was, and so many people who go into the top level, they're all playing first grade basically before 18, definitely before 20, and there'd be so many kids who obviously that you're coaching now who might not necessarily want to play cricket for Australia, but some of them probably do. And you must be able to identify straight away whether or not someone is going to be able to reach that level, surely, straight away.
But you can see the ones that get it, You would know as well, Sam. You look at someone and go, they just get it. They watch cricket, so they're modelling themselves off someone on TV, which happens less now. We coach a lot of kids that hardly watch cricket, so if you're trying to explain something to them, they don't get that. And that's how, I did it in my day and everyone prior to that. But the ones that get it, you can see that they watch. They understand body movements. They understand the game. They understand the fields. That's such a huge step in front of other kids. So if any kid sort of is at that level already, all it comes down to after that is purely commitment. You can have all the skill in the world. It's that whole adage of, the highly talented player that doesn't train much, the one that's underneath them that's not as good but trains harder, they'll make it above them because you need that commitment to make it. And that's all that divides a lot of that separates a lot of young players is that pure commitment to it. To go to the nets for 2 hours and practice one shot versus half an hour and just do all sorts of random things. They're the kids that make it because they're really committing to it.
Nice one, Jace. You've given us way more time than we budgeted for in this interview. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all the insights on the field, off the field, and especially great to hear that despite being involved in cricket so young and probably being, how would you say, at the hands of some pretty confused selections, that you're still giving back to the game and enjoying it probably more than ever.
No, I really appreciate it, boys. Love it.